Dust swirled through the air as Ethan stepped over the cracked stones of the alien ruins. The wind whistled through the hollow corridors, carrying a smell like old metal and dry ash. High above him, the jagged spires of the forgotten city clawed at the pale sky. The tour group walked slowly, their boots crunching against the dusty ground. The local guide kept his voice low, as if afraid to wake something that still slept here. Ethan had heard the warnings before. "Do not touch anything," the guide had said. "These ruins are sacred. The statue at the heart of the city is not to be approached." But warnings only made him more curious. When they reached the central plaza, the crowd stopped. In the middle stood the statue, tall, beautiful, and strange. It was shaped like a woman, but not human. Her skin was carved from dark stone that shimmered faintly in the dim light. Long tendrils of hair swept over her shoulders, and her eyes were shut, as if dreaming. Her lips were slightly parted, caught forever in some silent whisper. "That," the guide said, "is the Queen of 10,000 Stars. She ruled long before your species existed. 1,000 years ago, she was cursed and turned to stone. It is said that when her lips are touched, her curse will wake again." Ethan grinned. "So a space sleeping beauty?" No one laughed. The locals stared at him with hard eyes. Even the other tourists stepped back. He didn't know why, but something in their fear made him want to do it even more. Maybe it was the boredom of the trip. Maybe it was the way they acted like the statue could actually do something. He walked forward, ignoring the guide's shout. The air felt heavier near the statue, thick like water. His heart beat faster. Standing at the base, he tilted his head and looked up. The statue's lips seemed softer up close, almost real. He smirked. "Guess I'm about to be famous," he muttered. Leaning forward, he pressed his lips against the cold stone in a quick, mocking kiss. The air cracked like glass breaking. A deep vibration rolled through the ground, making the stones shift beneath his feet. He stumbled back. The sky above darkened, clouds swirling in a spiral overhead. A low hum filled the plaza, growing louder until it was like standing next to a roaring engine. Ethan froze. The statue's eyelids trembled. Slowly, they opened. Her eyes were not stone. They were alive, glowing a deep, burning crimson. The light in them was not warm. It was old, angry, and endless. Everyone screamed. The guide shouted for everyone to run, but Ethan couldn't move. The statue, no, the woman turned her head slightly, the stone cracking like old ice as she moved. Her gaze locked on him. Her voice was like thunder underwater, heavy and slow, each word pressing into his skull. "Your kiss has broken the seal." Ethan's breath caught. The ground shook harder. Around the plaza, alien symbols burned into the stone walls, glowing red. The symbols shifted, forming a single line of strange numbers, counting down. "What is this?" Ethan whispered, his voice shaking. "The curse of 1,000 years," she said, her lips curling into a faint smile. "Your kind will pay in fire and blood." Her voice echoed through the ruins. The clouds overhead pulsed with red lightning. Somewhere far away, an inhuman horn sounded, long and deep, as if calling to something across the stars. The guide grabbed Ethan's arm, dragging him back toward the others. "Fool," he shouted. "Do you know what you've done?" Ethan glanced back. The statue was still watching him. Though she stood motionless, her eyes followed him with unnatural precision. The countdown above the plaza ticked lower. The numbers changed again. 6 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes. And still dropping. He stumbled out of the plaza, heart pounding in his chest. Behind him, the air in the ruins shimmered like heat over metal, and the crimson glow spread slowly from the statue, creeping along the cracked streets toward the city walls. Ethan told himself it was impossible. Statues didn't wake up. Statues didn't talk. Statues didn't curse entire species. But deep inside, a cold, sharp fear began to grow. As the group hurried away, a distant voice whispered in his head, low and clear, as if someone were speaking directly into his mind. "Ethan." He froze. No one else reacted. The guide kept pulling him along. "Ethan," the voice said again. He tried to block it out, tried to think of anything else, but the whisper turned into a promise. "I will find you." And then, just before they reached the edge of the ruins, the voice added something that made his blood run cold. "When the last number fades, humanity dies." The ship ride back to the colony was silent, but Ethan could feel the tension pressing on him from every direction. The other tourists kept their distance, whispering to each other in low voices. Some glared at him like he had committed a crime. The local guide sat across from him, his face pale, hands shaking as he held a small data tablet. On the screen, the alien countdown burned in red. 6 days, 23 hours, and a few minutes left. The numbers kept ticking down with every heartbeat. Ethan leaned forward. You're seriously telling me this is real? That a statue is going to what? Destroy my planet? The guide's eyes flashed with anger. It is not just a statue. You woke the queen of 10,000 stars. The curse has been waiting 1,000 years for a fool like you. Ethan wanted to laugh, but the memory of those glowing crimson eyes stopped him. They hadn't looked like some mechanical trick or a light show. They looked alive. They looked like they hated him. When the ship landed, soldiers in black armor were already waiting. They marched forward in perfect lines, their weapons glowing faintly. The leader, a tall alien with sharp silver skin, pointed at Ethan. That's him. Take him. Before Ethan could protest, 2 soldiers grabbed his arms and pulled him down the ramp. Hey, I didn't do anything, he shouted. The silver-skinned leader leaned close, his voice low and cold. You did everything. The curse is not just a story. When the queen wakes, her wrath spreads like a plague. Entire systems will fall. Your species will be the first. They shoved him into an armored transport. The city outside was already in chaos. Screens on every building flashed the same red countdown he had seen in the ruins. People were shouting, some running, others praying. The transport stopped at a massive building with black walls and no windows. Inside, the air was cold and smelled faintly of oil. They led him to a chamber where alien officials sat around a long table. Each one wore robes covered in strange symbols. An old alien with deep-set eyes leaned forward. Human, do you understand what you have done? Ethan swallowed hard. I kissed a statue. That's it. Several of them hissed in disgust. The old alien's voice rose. You broke the seal of betrayal. The queen's spirit was bound so she could never rise again. Now her armies will return. When the last number reaches 0, her vengeance will begin. She will burn your worlds, just as she swore. Ethan shook his head. This is insane. If it's really that bad, just put her back to sleep or something. Another alien slammed a clawed hand on the table. We cannot. Only the blood of the first kisser can undo what was done. And you, human, carry that blood. The words hit him like a punch. What are you talking about? I don't even know who this first kisser is. The old alien's voice dropped. A human, 1,000 years ago. He betrayed the queen. His kiss was her death sentence. Yours is her rebirth. The room fell silent. Before Ethan could speak, a loud alarm blared. A soldier rushed in, shouting something in a language Ethan didn't understand. The old alien turned to him. The curse has already begun to spread. Entire sectors are losing power. Ships are vanishing. Ethan's chest tightened. He didn't want to believe it, but the fear in their voices was real. Suddenly, the lights flickered. For a moment, the room went dark. In that darkness, Ethan felt something, like fingers brushing against his mind. A voice, soft but sharp, spoke inside him. Ethan? He froze. The others kept talking, not hearing it. You cannot run, the voice continued. The seal is broken. Come to me, or I will come to you. The lights came back on. Sweat dripped down Ethan's back. The old alien looked at him closely. She is speaking to you already, isn't she? Ethan didn't answer. A younger alien woman at the far end of the table leaned forward. Her eyes were bright, almost glowing. If he is truly the bloodline, then there is only one way. We must send him to the tomb of no return. Several others shouted at once, but she raised her voice. If he reaches the heart of the tomb, he can find the Mirror Queen. Only she can stop the curse. But it will not be easy. The tomb is guarded by the Queen's own creations, machines that have been awake for 1,000 years. The old alien turned back to Ethan. It is your choice. Go to the tomb or be executed here to end your bloodline. Ethan's mouth went dry. He didn't want either option. But if this curse was real, and deep down he knew it was, then the tomb might be the only chance for Earth. Before he could answer, a deep boom shook the building. Dust rained from the ceiling. Sirens wailed. Soldiers ran through the halls. A guard burst in, panic in his voice. The Queen's shadows are here. Ethan looked toward the door. In the flicker of the failing lights, he saw something slither into the hall. It was tall, thin, and made of pure darkness, with eyes like red fire. And even though its face had no mouth, he heard it whisper inside his skull. You are mine. The shadow moved like smoke. sliding along the walls, ignoring the soldiers' gunfire. Bullets and plasma bolts passed through it as if it were made of mist. Its burning red eyes locked on Ethan, and the air turned cold around him. The silver-skinned leader shouted for the guards to fall back, but the creature moved too fast. It slipped past them and reached for Ethan with long, claw-shaped tendrils. He stumbled backward, the cold sinking into his bones as the tendrils brushed his chest. His vision darkened, and a sharp voice echoed in his mind. "Come to me, and your pain will end. Refuse, and your kind will suffer." Before the shadow could pull him in, a bright spear of blue light shot across the room, striking it in the chest. The shadow hissed, recoiling as its form twisted violently. The light came from the younger alien woman who had spoken earlier in the council. She stood at the doorway, holding a staff that glowed with alien runes. "Move!" she shouted. "It's not here to kill you. It's here to mark you for the Queen's army." Ethan didn't argue. He sprinted toward her as the shadow shrieked, its form shrinking back into the cracks of the wall. The building trembled again, as if the creature's presence had shaken the very ground. Outside, the city was in chaos. Fires burned in the streets, and the red countdown flashed on every surface. Buildings, billboards, even the clouds above, as if the numbers had been carved into the sky. 6 days, 19 hours, and falling. The woman grabbed Ethan's arm and pulled him into a narrow alley. "Name's Kaylira," she said quickly. "And if you want to live, you're coming with me." He panted, trying to keep up. "Who are you? Why are you helping me?" "I'm the only one here who doesn't want you dead yet," she replied, scanning the rooftops. "You're the key to ending this. The council won't tell you, but killing you might not stop the curse. It could make it worse." They reached a low, battered shuttle hidden under a tarp. Kaylira yanked the cover off and shoved him toward the hatch. "Get in." Ethan hesitated. "And go where?" She climbed inside without looking back. To the Tomb of No Return. It's the only place where the Queen's hold can be broken. The name made his stomach twist. Why does every place in your galaxy have a name that sounds like a death trap? Kaylira smirked faintly, because most of them are. Once inside, the shuttle's engines roared to life. They lifted off just as a swarm of shadow creatures appeared at the end of the alley. The red-eyed figures leapt toward them, but the shuttle shot into the sky, leaving them behind. From the cockpit, Ethan could see the damage spreading across the city, streets cracking open, buildings collapsing, and dark shapes moving like ants across the rooftops. The shadows seemed to be spreading from a single direction, and deep in his chest, Ethan knew exactly where they were coming from: the statue. Kaylira steered the shuttle into the black of space. Stars stretched around them, and the planet fell away behind. "The tomb is in the orbit of a dying star," she explained. "It's been sealed for centuries, but the Queen's magic will let us in. That's the good news." Ethan frowned. "And the bad news?" She tapped the controls, bringing up a hologram of a massive structure floating in space. It was shaped like a fortress, with spires curling inward, like claws closing around something inside. "The tomb has guardians," she said. "Machines older than any species alive today. They were built to kill anything that tries to enter." Ethan stared at the image. "And you think we can get past them?" Kaylira glanced at him. "We don't have a choice. You carry the blood that can end the curse. Without you, there's no hope for humanity, or for anyone else." Silence hung between them. Outside the window, the stars shifted as they entered hyperspace. For a moment, Ethan thought he could breathe again, but then the temperature inside the shuttle dropped, frost forming on the edges of the glass. His breath came out in pale clouds. Kaylira's eyes narrowed. "She's here." Before he could ask what she meant, the cockpit lights flickered. The shadows were back, crawling across the walls like living ink. One of them rose up, forming the shape of the Queen's face, smooth, alien, and impossibly beautiful. Her crimson eyes burned into his. "Run, little heir," she whispered. "I want to see how far you get before the end." Kaylira swung her staff, sending another blast of blue light through the shadow. It vanished, but her hands trembled. "She's getting stronger. By the time we reach the tomb, she may already control half the galaxy." Ethan gripped the edge of his seat, his voice low. "Then we better get there first." Neither of them said anything more, but in the silence, Ethan could still hear her voice in his head, soft and deadly. "You can't hide from me, Ethan. You were mine the moment you kissed me." The shuttle dropped out of hyperspace into a sea of red light. Before them hung the dying star, huge, swollen, and bleeding waves of molten fire into space. Around it, like a crown of black thorns, floated the tomb of no return. The fortress was massive, its jagged towers twisting inward toward a central sphere that pulsed faintly, like a beating heart. Even from this distance, Ethan felt a strange pressure in his skull, as if the tomb was watching him. Kalira's hands tightened on the controls. The Guardians will come the moment we cross the outer ring. Stay close to me, no matter what happens. The shuttle's engines roared as they approached. The black spires loomed larger, their surfaces etched with glowing alien runes. A deep hum vibrated through the ship. Suddenly, 3 shapes detached from the tomb's outer walls. At first, they looked like chunks of metal, but then their limbs unfolded, giant machines with long, bladed arms and glowing eyes. The Guardians moved with frightening speed, each step in the void sending a shockwave through space. One raised its arm, and a spear of crimson energy shot toward them. Kalira rolled the shuttle hard to the side, the blast passing so close that it scorched the hull. "Those things aren't just for show," Ethan said through clenched teeth. "They were built to stop gods," Kalira replied, diving between 2 spires. The Guardians gave chase, their glowing eyes locking on Ethan as if they could sense his bloodline. One swung a bladed arm, slicing through a tower to get to them. Debris spun into the void. Kalira pulled the shuttle up sharply, flying straight toward the sphere at the tomb's center. As they neared, a massive gate began to open, its doors grinding apart to reveal a dark corridor beyond. The Guardians lunged, but a sudden burst of blue light shot from Kalira's staff, striking the nearest machine in the head. The Guardian froze for a moment, buying them just enough time to slip inside. The gate slammed shut behind them, sealing the Guardians out. The shuttle landed in a wide chamber lit by dim, flickering light. The air inside was still and heavy, carrying the faint scent of dust and something older, something almost sweet. Ethan stepped out, the floor cold beneath his boots. The walls were carved with scenes of war, alien soldiers clashing with human warriors in armor he didn't recognize. But what made him stop was one particular carving. It showed a tall, alien queen with flowing hair, her hand resting on the shoulder of a human man. The man's face looked like his. Ethan stepped closer. The human in the carving was kissing the queen, their lips almost touching. The next panel showed her collapsing, poisoned, her eyes wide in shock. The man stood above her, a shadow coiling around him. "That's him," Kalira said quietly. "The first kisser. Your ancestor." Ethan's stomach tightened. "You're saying I'm related to him?" Kalira's gaze stayed on the carving. The curse wasn't just revenge. It was a promise. When one of his blood touched her lips again, she would rise, not to rule, but to destroy. They moved deeper into the tomb. The corridors narrowed, the air growing colder. Strange whispers seemed to float from the walls, speaking in a language Ethan didn't understand. At one point, he thought he heard his own name among them. The path opened into a circular chamber. In the center stood another statue of the queen, but this one was different. Her eyes were open, carved with unnatural precision, and in her hands she held a mirror of black glass. The surface rippled as if alive. Kalira approached carefully. "This is the Mirror Queen. She is the only thing that can stop the curse, but she will not help easily." Ethan looked at the mirror. For a moment, his reflection stared back. Then it changed. He saw Earth burning, oceans boiling, cities turning to ash under a red sky. He saw himself standing beside the queen, her hand in his, watching it all happen. He stepped back, shaking his head. "That's not me." The statue's lips moved. The voice was hers, the same voice from the ruins, smooth and cold. "It will be you if you do nothing. The blood you carry is mine to command." Kalira raised her staff. "We're here to break your hold, Queen. Release the curse." The queen's laughter echoed around them, low and sharp. "You think it can be broken with words? No. The heir must prove himself. He must survive my judgment." The black glass in the mirror swirled, and a shadow rose from it, shaped like Ethan but twisted, its eyes glowing red, its mouth curled into a cruel smile. It stepped forward, drawing a blade of pure darkness. Ethan's breath caught. He had never held a real weapon in his life. The shadow lifted its sword, and Kalira's voice was urgent. "If you can't defeat it, the curse will bind you forever." The shadow lunged. The shadow's blade whistled through the air, missing Ethan's face by inches. He stumbled backward, barely avoiding the next swing. Every move the shadow made was fast and precise, like it already knew how Ethan would react. Its crimson eyes glowed brighter in the dim chamber, and every time it smiled, Ethan felt something cold twist inside his chest. Kalira tossed him a short alien blade, its surface shimmering faintly. "Use it! It's forged from the star's core. It can hurt her creations." Ethan caught the weapon clumsily. The moment his hand wrapped around the hilt, the shadow tilted its head as if amused. Then it attacked again, the clash of their blades ringing through the chamber. Sparks flew as steel met darkness. He had no training, but instinct pushed him to block, step back, and swing wildly. Still, the shadow was stronger. With each strike, Ethan's arms shook, the force nearly knocking the weapon from his grip. The shadow spoke in a voice that was his own, but colder. "You can't win. You were born to finish what he started, to destroy her and all she loved." "I'm not him," Ethan growled, pushing back against the next strike. The shadow's smirk deepened. "You carry his blood, his lies, his betrayal. You will fall as he did." It slashed at him again, forcing Ethan to stumble against the wall. The black glass of the mirror behind the statue rippled, as if feeding on the fight. The queen's voice filled the chamber, silky and cruel. "Do you see now, Kalira? He is too weak. The curse will claim him, as it should." Kalira didn't answer. She struck the ground with her staff, sending a ripple of blue energy toward Ethan. It wrapped around him like a shield, dulling the shadow's next blow. "You're not fighting with your hands," she shouted. "You're fighting with your will. If she breaks that, we're finished." Ethan gritted his teeth. The shadow lunged again, but this time he didn't retreat. He blocked, then shoved forward with all his strength, driving the blade into the shadow's chest. The creature staggered back, the wound spilling black smoke instead of blood. For a second, Ethan thought he'd won. But then the shadow laughed, a low, distorted sound, and the wound closed instantly. "You can't kill me. I am you." Something inside Ethan snapped. He charged, swinging again and again, not caring about form or skill. The shadow matched every strike, the sound of clashing blades echoing like thunder. Sweat burned his eyes. His arms screamed in pain, but he refused to stop. The mirror behind the statue began to glow, showing flashes of earth, streets filled with panicked people, the red countdown burning in the sky, oceans rising in giant waves. Each image made Ethan's rage boil hotter. He shouted, his voice raw. "I don't care about your curse. I don't care about your games. You're not taking my world." The shadow's smile faltered for the first time. Its next swing was slower, and Ethan saw the opening. He stepped in and drove his blade straight through its chest. This time, instead of sealing, the wound spread, cracks of light tearing through the shadow's body. The queen's voice sharpened, no longer amused. "Enough!" The mirror shattered with a deafening crack, and the shadow exploded into a cloud of black dust. Ethan fell to his knees, gasping for breath, his hands trembling around the blade. Kalira rushed to his side, gripping his shoulder. "You did it. You broke her first trial." Ethan looked at the shards of the mirror. They still pulsed faintly, like dying embers. "That was the first?" Kalira's jaw tightened. "There will be more. She's testing you. She wants to see if you're worth claiming or worth killing." The statue's eyes glowed brighter, and her voice slithered through the air. "You think you've won? You've only proven your blood is strong enough for me to shape. The curse will not be broken so easily." The walls around them groaned, and the floor split open, revealing a spiral staircase leading downward into darkness. A cold wind rushed up from below, carrying the faint sound of whispers and screams. Kalira glanced at him. "That's where the heart of the curse lies. If we reach it, we might end this." Ethan stood, his legs heavy but steady. "Then let's go before she changes her mind." They descended into the dark, each step echoing like a drumbeat. The air grew colder, and the whispers grew louder, now speaking in fragments of English. Burn, betray, kiss. At the bottom, they entered a vast chamber lit by streams of red light from the ceiling. In the center stood a stone altar, its surface carved with the same glowing numbers of the countdown. Kalira's eyes widened. This is it, the seal. But before they could approach, the red light dimmed, and the queen's form appeared, towering, elegant, her tendrils flowing like liquid shadow. Her crimson eyes burned with fury and hunger. "Welcome to my heart," she said. "Now, let me see if yours is worth saving." The queen stepped forward, her form both solid and shifting, like smoke trapped in the shape of a woman. Every movement carried the weight of centuries. Her voice echoed through the chamber, soft but heavy enough to make Ethan's knees weaken. You broke the mirror, little heir. Impressive. But that was only the reflection of your own weakness. Here, in my heart, I will break the rest of you. Kalira moved between them, staff raised, the blue glow from its tip cutting through the red light. We're not here to play your games. End the curse. The queen tilted her head, her expression almost pitying. The curse will end when the blood that betrayed me proves it can be trusted again. But tell me, Kalira, do you trust him? Kalira hesitated, and Ethan felt the question like a blade. Before she could answer, the queen raised her hand. The air twisted, and the altar in the center of the room began to shift. The stone surface melted into a pool of black liquid, rippling like oil. From that darkness, figures began to rise, dozens of them, shaped like humans, but with hollow eyes and skin as pale as bone. Each one carried a weapon, and each one turned to face Ethan. They are the shadows of your bloodline, the queen said. Every one of them chose betrayal over loyalty. If you wish to break my curse, you must face them all and win. Ethan gripped the alien blade tighter. His arms still ached from the fight with the first shadow, but there was no time to recover. The first of the pale warriors charged, swinging a jagged sword. Ethan blocked, the force of the blow rattling his bones, and countered with a desperate strike that cut deep into its chest. The warrior dissolved into smoke, but another took its place. Then another, and another. The chamber rang with the clash of metal. Kalira fought beside him, her staff sending arcs of blue energy into the attackers, but for every one they defeated, more rose from the pool. Sweat dripped into Ethan's eyes, and his breathing grew ragged. This isn't working, he shouted, parrying another strike. Kalira knocked an enemy back with a burst of light. They're endless. She's testing your spirit, not your strength. If you lose hope, they'll overwhelm us. Ethan's mind raced. He thought of the queen's words about trust, about betrayal. He realized the fight wasn't about killing them all. It was about proving something to her. He stepped back, lowering his blade. The pale warriors circled, but didn't strike immediately. I'm not him, Ethan said loudly, his voice echoing across the chamber. I'm not the one who betrayed you. I'm not here to take from you or hurt you. I'm here to stop this. The queen's eyes narrowed. The warriors froze. You speak like a savior, she said. So did he. Ethan shook his head. The difference is, I mean it. If I have to die here to stop you from destroying Earth, I will. But I won't betray you. The queen studied him for a long moment. Then slowly, the pale warriors stepped back, their forms dissolving into mist. The black pool on the altar hardened back into stone. Kalira let out a slow breath. You passed. The queen's voice softened, but it still carried an edge. Perhaps, but one trial remains. The altar split open, revealing a small, heart-shaped crystal, glowing faintly red. Its light pulsed in time with Ethan's heartbeat. This is the seal of the curse, she said. Break it, and I will vanish forever. Keep it, and my power will remain bound to you. You will carry my strength and my shadow. Ethan stared at the crystal. Breaking it might free humanity, but it might also erase something that could protect them. Keeping it could give him the power to defend Earth, but at the risk of becoming what she wanted. Kalira's voice was tense. Choose carefully. Once it's done, there's no going back. He stepped closer, the crystal's glow reflecting in his eyes. The queen's voice slipped into his mind, softer now. You could rule with me. Save your people and mine. No more war. No more fear. Just you and me. Ethan's hand hovered over the crystal. His heart pounded. The weight of the choice pressed on him like a mountain. Finally, he gripped it. The red light flared, burning through his palm. The queen's form trembled, her eyes widening. What have you done? She hissed. Ethan's voice was steady. Ending this. For good. He crushed the crystal in his fist. It shattered, releasing a blinding light that filled the chamber. The queen screamed, her form breaking apart into streaks of shadow that dissolved into nothing. The red light in the walls faded, replaced by a pale, soft glow. Kalira lowered her staff, breathing hard. It's over. Ethan looked at the dust in his palm where the crystal had been. I hope you're right. Somewhere deep in the silence that followed, he thought he heard her voice. Faint, almost like a memory. This isn't the end, little heir. Only the beginning. The light faded slowly, leaving the chamber dim and still. Dust hung in the air like frozen smoke, drifting down over the broken altar. Ethan stood in silence, his breathing heavy, his hand still tingling from where the crystal had shattered. The red countdown that had haunted him since the ruins was gone. The walls were bare now, their runes dull and lifeless. Kalira stepped forward, scanning the room with cautious eyes. The seal is broken. The curse should be gone. Ethan wanted to believe her, but something in his chest felt unsettled. Then why doesn't it feel over? Before Kalira could answer, the floor beneath them shifted with a low groan. The stone steps they had descended began to crack apart. Pieces of the ceiling fell, smashing into the ground with deafening crashes. "She's trying to bury the tomb," Kalira said sharply. "We need to get out. Now!" They ran for the staircase, dodging falling debris. The walls trembled with every step, the sound of the tomb collapsing echoing like thunder. As they reached the upper chamber, one of the great spires above split in two, sending a wave of dust through the air. The shuttle was still where they had left it, though its hull was now covered in fine cracks from the strain of the tomb's energy. Kalira jumped into the pilot's seat, fingers flying over the controls. The engines roared to life, vibrating through the deck. "Hold on," she warned. Ethan gripped the nearest handle as the shuttle blasted off, just as the chamber floor collapsed into the fiery void below. They shot out of the tomb's gates, and behind them, the entire fortress shuddered before folding inward, like it was being pulled into itself. In a burst of red and black, it vanished, leaving only the dying star's faint light. For the first time since the kiss, the galaxy felt quiet. No countdown, no whispering voice in his head, no shadows lurking in the corners. Kalira didn't relax until they were back in hyperspace. "It's done," she said finally, leaning back in her seat. "The Queen is gone." Ethan nodded slowly, "Then Earth is safe." But deep down, he couldn't shake the memory of her last words. This isn't the end, only the beginning. When they reached the Galactic Council station, the reaction was immediate. The same soldiers who had once marched him away in chains now stood back, watching him with uncertain eyes. The silver-skinned leader approached, his expression unreadable. "The countdown has stopped," he said. "The Queen's shadow has lifted from our systems. Ships are returning. Worlds are waking again. Whatever you did, it worked." Ethan didn't correct him. He only said, "It's over." The council met with Kalira in private, but when she emerged, her expression was grim. "They wanted to thank you," she said. "But they also wanted to warn you. The Queen's name has power. If she ever finds a way back, her first step will be to find you." Ethan almost laughed. "Figures." They gave him a small transport to return to human space. Kalira chose to accompany him, saying only that her oath wasn't finished. The journey home was quieter than he expected. Without the constant weight of the curse pressing against his mind, he found himself watching the stars and wondering what the Queen's world had looked like before the betrayal. When Earth came into view, a blue and green sphere floating in the black, he felt a strange mix of relief and dread. Relief because it was still there. Dread because now he knew how close it had come to burning. The landing was simple. No one on Earth knew what had happened. No one knew that their world had been seconds from destruction because of a kiss. He stepped out into the cool air, the sound of city life in the distance. Everything looked normal. Kalira stood beside him, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "You should know," she said quietly. "Breaking the crystal didn't erase your connection to her. It only freed her power from the curse. Some of it stayed with you." Ethan looked at his hand. Sometimes, when the light hit just right, he thought he saw a faint red shimmer under his skin. "So what does that mean for me?" Kalira's lips pressed into a thin line. "It means if she rises again, she'll find you, and she won't come as a voice in your head next time." He didn't answer. Instead, he walked toward the city, blending into the crowd. People passed him without a second glance, unaware of the war that had almost reached their doorstep. That night, alone in a quiet apartment, he dreamed. He was standing in the ruins again, the air heavy and hot. The Queen was there, her eyes still crimson, but softer than before. She didn't speak. She only smiled, as if she knew something he didn't. When he woke, the morning sun was streaming through the window, but his hand was warm, as though someone had been holding it.